Okay, here we go. 2020. Let's take a quick look back. Corey Perry was ejected from the Winter Classic within 3 minutes. The Patriots dynasty came to an end. Joe Burrow and the LSU Tigers capped off one of the greatest seasons to date. Derrick Henry ran wild in the NFL playoffs. Conor McGregor made his return to the UFC. The Kansas City Chiefs won Super Bowl 54. Aaron Gordon dunked over Taco Fall, and D Wade gave it a 9. The NBA put on one of the greatest All Star games of all time. Tyson Fury got his revenge against Deontay Wilder, and Tom Brady became a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And life was good. Then we all got locked down. The NBA season was put on pause. The NHL season was also put on pause. March Madness was canceled. The MLB season was pushed back. Soccer leagues across the world stopped play. The Summer Olympics were postponed. And the NFL draft became virtual. Our everyday lives were changed. But we came back. And while the arenas were empty, we finally had our sports back. Dana White led the charge to get sports back with UFC 249. The NBA and NHL announced their bubbles. The MLB played a 60-game season. UFC got an entire island put on their own fights. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup. The Los Angeles Lakers won the NBA Finals. The Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series. Bayern Munich won the Champions League. Habib Nurmagomedov earned the final win of his perfect career. The NFL returned. College football returned. But it wasn't always a good time. We lost icons. And we lost legends. So, I think I speak for everyone when I say, good riddance 2020. You won't be missed. However, for one last time, let's take a final look back at the year in sports. Welcome to the first annual Sports King Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first annual Sports King Awards. I'm your host, Dominic, and as always, I'm joined up top by the Price brothers, Daniel and Anthony. And guys, we've got some awards we're going to hand out. We've got some top moments we're going to discuss, and we'll do it all right here, right now. As I said, welcome to the first annual Sports King Awards. You can see all the awards that we're going to be talking about today. We got top 10 moments of the year we're going to talk about. We're going to give away an athlete of the year, a team of the year, a comeback of the year, a coach of the year, a rookie of the year, a game of the year, surprise of the year, a heartwarming moment of the year, and our own personal award, the Sports King.Dom Man of the Year, similar to the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year that they would give away. So, guys, we're going to hop right into it. We're not playing any games today. We're going to start with our top 10 moments of the year, and we're going to start with numbers 10 and 9. So, Dan, why don't you go first? Tell us number 10 on your list of moments of the year.
Number 10 for me was when Steven Stamkos, who was injured for a lot of playoffs last season, came back in the Stanley Cup and he scored. I think it was game 3 in which he scored in, and just seeing his teammates on the bench, they were so happy for him. He's been on the team a long time, and then eventually they got the cup. So it was just a great moment for me. I've always kind of liked the Lightning. Steven Stamkos, great player, and it was great to see him score. So that's number 10 for me.
Well said, Anthony. Go ahead.
My number 10 is the Mahomes contract, which was 10 years, 503 million. It's a lot of money, very young. It's a record-breaking deal. And that's just like, I think that contract will never be beaten. I don't think no one ever get another contract like that.
Another great pick. My top 10, or the start my top 10 and number 10, it's not one of the happier moments of the year, but I figured it had such an impact on me, and I imagine it had a huge impact on a lot of other people around the world. It was the passing of Kobe Bryant. I had to put it on the list just to honor the man for one last time for myself, at least. Kobe Bryant was such an inspiration in my life, one of my favorite basketball players. He'll forever be the greatest player I ever watched. Unless something happens in the future. But that goes at number 10 on my list, the passing of Kobe Bryant. We'll move on. Number 9, Dan, let's start with your number 9.
Number 9 for me was when Atletico Madrid defeated Liverpool in the CL. So this was in the second leg. This was probably the most exciting couple of games we had in the Champions League over this past year. We had Marcus Llorente scored in the 97th, and I think 105th. And then Murata put it away with a 120 minute goal. And this was huge because Liverpool, of course, they won the Champions League last year, and then they won the Premier League this year. But if they were still in the tournament, who knows what could have happened? Bayern may not have been the champions. There could have been a ton of different things. This was just a really exciting game. Really just classic Champions League. Like,
Yep, an exciting two-league affair between Atletico Madrid and Liverpool in the Champions League. Anthony, will move on to your number 9.
Number 9 was Zion Williamson's debut. He played great. Drove. He shot 3 threes and made them. His first minute in the league, he blocked a ball that went over his bench and into the third row. He's like a generational player, and even as the season started now, teams know he wants to drive, but yeah, he's still scoring each game, and it's gonna be hard to stop. And it's just seeing his debut as him possibly being the future of the NBA, something I'll remember.
An impressive debut for a future star in the NBA. My number 9 pick, it's sitting right next to me. Actually, it was the announcement of the Seattle Kraken. We had known for a little bit that Seattle would be getting the 32nd team in the NHL, and it was just this year where the Seattle Kraken was announced, and I got all those feelings that I got when the Golden Knights were announced. So to have the Seattle Kraken come to the NHL, it earned my number 9 spot. So those are number 10 and 9 on our list. We will move on, and we're going to hand out our first award of the night, and we're going to start with the Rookie of the Year, just the way every other sport does it. You know how Rookie of the Year works. It was a little different for us. We did it throughout all sports. So obviously, if someone chose a soccer player, there's not really rookies in soccer. So if it was like their first year with a big club, that could count as a rookie. If it's a fighter, his first year in the UFC or Bellator or something like that, that could count as a rookie. But you know how it works for the NHL, MLB, and so on and so forth. So Dan, we'll start with you. Why don't you give us your Rookie of the Year?
my rookie of the year for 2020 was Kyle Lewis of the Seattle Mariners. He was just simply fantastic this year. He was the unanimous AL Rookie of the Year. Batted, I think, 262, 11 home runs in the shortened season, which is not that bad. There's only 60 games. And it's just, a great sign if you're a Mariners fan, because this is a great player that you're going to have for a long time. So he was my Rookie of the Year. It made a real difference.
My Rookie of the Year is Justin Herbert. He was my favorite quarterback coming out of the draft, and he broke the touchdown record for rookies. Played great as a bad team, a coach that doesn't help him or compliment him at all. And I just think he did really good. He has a bright future. A new coach, I think, is just going to make him even better. He reminds me of a taller, stronger, faster version of an Andrew Luck.
Well said, gentlemen. My pick for Rookie of the Year, personally, I went with Hamzat Shemaev, the fighter in the UFC out of Sweden and I guess Russia at the same time. What a year for him. We saw him on Fight Island twice within the span of a week, and then he had another fight. I believe it was early September he had the fight. 3-0 in the year. He was supposed to fight Leon Edwards the end of December, but that fight got scrapped, and now it's supposed to be in January. So he looks to get off his 2021 off to a bang, like the way he finished his 2020. So my Rookie of the Year goes to Hamzat Shemaev. Dan, he said it was going to Kyle Lewis. Anthony to Justin Herbert. So some solid picks for Rookie of the Year, gentlemen. And we'll move right on to the next award. We got the Game of the Year. So this could have been, of course, obviously from any sport, any game, any playoff series, any regular season game, whatever you wanted to pick. The Game of the Year. Anthony, we'll start with you for this one.
I did Bills versus Cardinals. I think it was a crazy game. Just the way it ended, which is one of the best plays I ever saw that I can think of. It was back and forth, two young quarterbacks like that are the future stars, and they showed it. And it was an unbelievable game. How each team was able to come back in the game and take the lead, and then it came to the last second. So that's my pick.
I'll go now. I'm kind of in a similar vein. It's an NFL game. I picked the Browns versus the Ravens, week 14. So a few weeks ago, and just to me, I don't know. I know it's a regular season game. It did have pretty big playoff implications, but it was just so entertaining to watch. Back and forth. Finished, I think it was 47-42, something like that. But it just a lot of offense, just two teams, two division rivals playing it out against each other. And like I said, I don't know if I was entertained by a singular game throughout the whole year more than this one.
Yeah, my Game of the Year, I went back to the UFC for another award. I gave out a Fight of the Year. I'm going to give it to Joanna Jacek versus Zhang Wei Li back in March. Hands down, that was my fight of the year, and it was the most entertaining thing I would say I watched all year personally. Back and forth fight between the two, and to this day, I'm not really sure who won the fight. No matter how many times I rewatch it, I got a different winner each time. So hopefully in 2021 we can see those two run it back, and we can get another one because that first fight was amazing. And it just had everything you could ever want in a fight, especially, the women's game in MMA, just in general, not really respected as I would say it should be. And those two put on a hell of a show and really proved that it should get the attention it deserves. So those were our game of the years. I obviously just said Joanna Jacek versus Zhang Wei Li. Dan had the Browns versus the Ravens on Monday Night Football in Week 14, and Anthony had the Bills versus the Cardinals game, which ended in the DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary catch for the win. We'll move on now, and now we're going to get back into the top 10 moments of the year. We're going to go at 8 and 7. So, Dan, why don't you start out with number 8?
Number 8 for me was Luka's overtime step back three that he hit against the Clippers in the bubble. I mean, this shot was just ice cold. Mavericks were down by 1, inbounded the ball. Luka stepped back and drained a shot. Obviously, I think the Mavericks did end up losing that series in 7. However, it's just very indicative of how Luka's going to be the face of the league for years to come, and now he's just such a great clutch player already. And it was just classic. It's probably like the best moment I saw of this bubble that we had, which was a pretty fun experience. So this shot had to be there for me.
Anthony, we want to do number 8.
I had the Dodgers winning the World Series, first time in a while, and they just, I love Corey Seager, and he played awesome, and it was just a World Series to remember, especially how dumb the coach of the Rays is, or manager of the Rays is, and everything happened. But it's just, they finally won. All the money they spent and all the times they lost, they finally won. So congrats, LA. Don't get used to it. But that was it.
My number 8 moment is the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I don't know why I forgot it. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 54. They beat the 49ers. It's mostly on my list just because Andy Reid won it. Big red guy over here. It was great to see him finally win the Super Bowl. And it was a fun Chiefs team to watch, honestly. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. It's just a fun team to watch in general. So Chiefs win the Super Bowl 54 against the 49ers. That comes at number 8 on my list. We'll move on to number 7. Dan, why don't you go ahead and take us away?
For 7, I have Tom Brady joining the Buccaneers. I mean, this was just, in terms of the NFL, this was a huge, huge move. I mean, Tom Brady and the Patriots were together for, I think, 20 seasons. They won 6 Super Bowls, the greatest dynasty that we've ever seen in the sport. And he left. He went to Tampa Bay. I mean, we kind of felt like this was a place that he would go, but we still didn't know if he went. And this just, to me, was a huge moment, and it definitely had to be on my list.
My number 7 is what Dan said for his number 8, the Luka step back. Luka's such a good player. I remember where I was when we were watching this. Me and Dan were down the shore in Wildwood, in the car, and I was watching on my phone, and he hit the step back, and I was just going crazy. I couldn't believe it. It was from range. He had one of the best defenders on him, and he just that shot. Even though he had a great season, that shot right there was when you knew like that was the start of the next person who's going to be something great. And it was just awesome. It was an awesome moment to watch.
Good picture number 7. My number 7, it was the return of Conor McGregor to the octagon. His return against Cowboy Cerrone in January. His first time in the octagon since his loss to Habib back in October of 2018. And what a fashion he did it in, a knockout in 40 seconds against one of the most highly respected guys in the UFC, Cowboy Cerrone, who holds so many records. Just to see Conor McGregor back in there, the atmosphere, you could see it in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The hype around the pay-per-view itself was just amazing. The build up to it all. He always says, it's a Conor McGregor fight whenever you're in Vegas. So incredible to see him return. And I look forward to his return in early January of 2021. So we'll move on. We'll get back into the awards. And this time we're going to do Coach of the Year. And you all know how Coach of the Year works. They do it in every single sport. But again, it's open to any single sport. So Anthony, let's start with you. Give us your Coach of the Year.
I had Brian Flores, the coach of the Dolphins. I love them in New England, and at the end of last year, the Dolphins had a good last 4 games, and you kind of saw that he was figuring things out, and then they did good in the off season. He put his defensive mind into it, and they're one of the best defenses in the league. And they have a chance of making the playoffs this year, which not a lot of people thought. And he's using Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick together, not just one person always having the show. And he just has so much faith in all these guys you never heard of, Gaskin, Ahmed, who are doing great. And I think that he should get it for the NFL, and I think he's my coach of that year.
Well said. We'll move on to Dan for your coach of the year.
Yeah, you mentioned him earlier. This was a tough one for me. I wanted to pick Hansi Flick from Bayern. He obviously did win the treble, but to me, that was too good of a squad. So I went with Big Red. I went with Andy Reid. He won his first Super Bowl. This was many, many years in the making. Dom and I are Eagles fans. We watched him for years. He was always a great coach, but he could never, get over the hump. And then this year, obviously won the Super Bowl, and then following that up by being the number one team in the league. They're currently 14-1, and they have a first round bye, and they could very well do it again. So to me, he just I would have liked to go a guy like Flores who turned it around, but to me, I got to give this one to Andy Reid.
Well said, boys. My coach of the year, I went with James Franklin. No, I did not. I'm going to make history, and I'm going to give the first ever co-awards for coach of the year. I had two because I just couldn't make up my mind. My first pick, Billy Donovan, formerly the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. First of all, that team was not supposed to be in the playoffs. They ended up being, what was it, the 5 seed, I believe. And they put on a show in the bubble, and they put on a show in the regular season as well. So I figured that was enough. He's currently the coach of the Bulls, so we'll have to see what he does with them. But I figured it was enough to give him the coach of the year after putting a great year together with that Oklahoma City team, who, as I said, was not expected to do anything that year and still ended up making the playoffs, and we're a really good team. And then my second pick was Alain Vigneault, the coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. What a year he put in for the Flyers in his first season. I remember when they had like the NHL version of Hard Knocks before the season last year, and it was on the Flyers. And I could just tell that team was going to be something special with the mindset he brought and the new type of hockey that he brought. It was really Philadelphia hockey, if you've ever seen it before. And you showed they ended up being the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference after the round robin in the NHL bubble. It didn't come to much after a second round loss to the Islanders in 7 games, but I think he can do it again this year and maybe even more, possibly make it to an Eastern Conference Finals, if not a Stanley Cup. So we'll move on now after the Coach of the Years, and we're going to give away our first ever Sports King.Dom Man of the Year award. As I said earlier, it's similar to the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. It's really just good people in sports. It doesn't matter how they actually play in the game. It's more so what they do off the field, off the ice, off the court, whatever you want to pick. It's really the man behind the sports figure. So we'll start with Dan here. Dan, who's your Sports King.Dom Man of the Year?
My Sports King.Dom Man of the Year was Marcus Rashford, the English forward from Manchester United. And he has just been, in light of course, the coronavirus pandemic, he's just been so great to the people around England. He himself grew up in a very poor household, so he knew how much food and anything that you can get was worth. So after the English government decided that they weren't going to give free food to the people, like students who weren't going to school, he pledged to feed over 1.5 million kids in England every week, like when they're supposed to be in school. And that just, to me, it was just a great. He's a great guy. He's so young, and taking what he did in his childhood and trying to change the fortune of other people was just a great thing to see. So he was my Sports King.Dom Man of the Year.
Well said, Anthony. Your pick?
The player I picked was J.J. Watt, the Houston Texans defensive end. Even though they're not good this year, just after their loss this Sunday, against the Bengals, if you see his interview, and I really recommend to watch it, he was upset in tears, and I love that he called people out. One, he does a lot for the city of Houston and a lot of kids around the country and the world, but he called people out for not working hard, and he was talking about the whole time how blessed that each person is in NFL to be an NFL player, get paid. He put it as paid handsomely, and he said we shouldn't be getting paid if we are losing like this and we're not trying. And he just kept talking about how blessed he was to have the funnest job in the world and how anyone would die for this job, and he's lucky enough to do it. And I love that he apologized to the city of Houston, any Texans fan that there is, just saying that we should give you better. All the people that are working need to leave right now, and I just really give him that all the credit he deserves, because he's trying, and not a lot of people on his team are. I'll definitely watch that interview, but I just got to give it to him for apologizing and saying how blessed they are, and how every NFL player has to realize that they are blessed and get paid a lot more than any person does in the world, and they have to work for it and show us that.
Well said, boys. For my Sports King.Dom Man of the Year, I chose everyone. In a year that was just weird. What can I say? I mean, let me list it off. We had, the Black Lives Matter protest. So many athletes out there use their voices and, use their, I would say, publicity to get their voices out there, to get the message across to everyone. And then Dan mentioned it with the coronavirus pandemic. There were so many people out there helping along with that, donating, money, food, telling people where to go, what to do, how to react, how to help, what they could do to get involved. It was just a really good thing to see the entire sports community kind of united. Like I said, with the protesting and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, there was so much, in the bubble when both the NHL and the MLB and the NBA had games canceled to protest that. That takes a lot to do. That takes an entire league to do. That's just not something that one person can say, you know what, I'm not playing today. That was multiple teams. That was multiple leagues doing that. So I'm going to give it to everyone. I think everyone deserves a pat on the back and a round of applause for an extraordinary year in a difficult time. And I'll just leave it at that. Congratulations to everyone. Dan had Marcus Rashford, Anthony had JJ Watt, and I've given it to everyone. So you viewer, you get one too. Pat yourself on the back as well. Congratulations, you've won an award. Let's move on. Numbers 6 and 5 on our list. We'll start with Anthony. Anthony, why don't you give us number 6?
Number 6 was the Penn State versus Indiana controversial call game. I think it was a good call by the refs. Indiana played very good, and just a moment of the fall of Penn State, which is always great to see for football, not basketball. Go Penn State basketball. But that was just a controversial moment. Penn State people are so mad about it. The party was ruined after that call, but that's just something that really sticks out, was Penn State versus Indiana game.
For me, this may be a bit of a homer pick, but the Flyers winning their first playoff series since 2012, I think it was just it's been a long time, obviously 8 years, and they played really well in the beginning of the series against the Canadiens, and then kind of tailed off towards the end, but they, eventually got it, and it was just great to see this young group of guys who should be good for many years to come finally get it. I felt really good for Carter Hart. He's played fantastic throughout the whole year, and then he won that playoff series. It's huge for a young goalkeeper. So that was my number 6 moment. Bit of a homer pick, but
Good pick nonetheless, boys. My number 6. I think Dan, you had it at your number 7. Mine was Tom Brady signing with the Buccaneers. What a huge move it was, and I'm not going to say we didn't see it coming, because I feel like for it'd been over a while. The reports had come out. It's not looking like he's going to sign with New England again. Where is he going to go? And I didn't expect it to be Tampa Bay. I figured they would have stuck with Jameis Winston for another year, maybe give him another turnaround after his 30-30 season with the 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. But what a move. Generational talent like Tom Brady, he'll go down as one of the greatest of all times. He already is one of the greatest of all time, surefire Hall of Famer. Signing with the Buccaneers after a really long career. I mean, Dan listed all the accolades earlier, so I'm not going to sit here and bore you with them again. But just what a move, Tom Brady signing with the Buccaneers on that 2-year deal. So we'll move on. Number 5. Dan, we'll start with you. Who you got at number 5?
At number 5, this only happened a couple of days ago, but I had to put it. Fitzmagic returning, going in back in against the Raiders, and then leading them to win, especially that, I'm going to call it that and one completion. He threw it, I think it was 34 yards to Matt Collins while his face mask was being turned. So they got the additional 15 yards. and then Jason Sanders kicked the field goal. And this might, they still could miss the playoffs, but that win was huge. They desperately needed it. And we could see that play itself could make the difference between this team making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. Personally, I thought they would have finished around 7-9, 8-8 before the season, but they're doing a fantastic job. They do have a tough game against the Bills next week, but it was just a great play. I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't think anyone doesn't love the guy, so it was great to see. And Matt Collins, Eagles legend.
My number 5 pick for moment was Tom Brady to the Bucks. I know they both mentioned it. It was just, Tom Brady is my favorite football player of all time, and I I love the Patriots a lot. So does my uncle Bill at Dom knows. And
Shout out Uncle
it's
Bill.
Dan's uncle also. It was just something that I'll never forget. Hurt a little at first. I was kind of sad. Still love the Patriots. Still love Tom Brady, but it was just, I wish it never happened. Like I kind of wanted him to finish like his career with one team, like the great Kobe did, and Derek Jeter just have one long career with one team, or Dirk. Fortunately, didn't happen, and he's still doing great things. And that was just a huge shock to me. But I'm happy that he's doing good, and he's golfing in Florida, so all good for him.
He's enjoying that Florida sun like I wish I was right now. My number 5, I picked the entirety of the MLB playoffs. I just absolutely love the playoffs this year with the new format, with the 16 teams and the neutral site games because of the COVID issues. Just what a fun time to watch. None of the series were boring. The wild card games were great, and then you moved on to the DS, which was great, and then the LCS, which was also great, and then another fun World Series. So you couldn't go wrong anyway. All the games were entertaining to watch. All the matchups were fun to watch. It just made for great baseball and just a lot of fun in general. So my number 5 is the MLB playoffs in its entirety. So we'll move on to give out the next award. This one is going to go to the surprise of the year. So it could have been, some player having an amazing game or an amazing span of a few weeks, or it could have been some team going on some monstrous run. Surprise of the year. We'll start with Dan.
This one I couldn't really decide, so I'm gonna give a co-award like you did. So firstly, I'm gonna give it to the Miami Heat. I mean, I didn't really expect them to make it to the finals. Out of the East for me, I thought the Raptors would make it again just because they're a super well coached team. They almost did, but I mean, this Miami Heat team is just fun to watch. They very good defensively, led by Jimmy Butler, just a born leader. Really sad to see him leave the Sixers, but they were huge surprise for me. I didn't really think they had a chance to beat the Lakers, but it was just very surprising to see them make it to the finals. And the second one for me, it kind of dips into 2019 a bit, but Ryan Tannehill, he came in for the Titans towards the end of the last NFL season, won the final 4 games. They went, I think, 9-7, made the playoffs. They beat the Patriots, ended the Patriots dynasty. And then they gave the Chiefs a run for their money in the AFC Championship game. Of course, the Chiefs came back, but he was fantastic. He got the big contract. And then this year, I think he proved his worth. Obviously, they just had lost to the Packers last Sunday, but he's been fantastic this year. 30 touchdowns is his career high, very few interceptions. So he was just a big surprise for me. I didn't think he'd be as good as he has been.
My surprise, it's in the same city as Dan, Miami Marlins. Their whole first team, basically, their starters opted out, and then they were all young guys just having fun. They were supposed to be the worst in the league, and then they won the wild card round, then lost in the next round, but no one expected them to make it there. A lot of young guys stepped up. Sixto Sanchez, who was on the Phillies, that we all loved, and part of the deal for JT Realmuto, and he had a breakout year too. I remember Dom's dad was the first person ever told me about Sixto Sanchez, and I've been following him ever since. But Marlins, their coach did great, and I thought it was just a great year for the city of Miami, honestly. but the Heat and Marlins accomplishing what they did when no one expected it. So
Good picks, boys. My surprises of the year, I went to the NBA and I chose the Phoenix Suns in the NBA bubble. Undefeated run throughout the bubble. We all know how it ended. They didn't get into the playoffs, unfortunately. I don't know why they put them in the bubble. There was no chance of them making the playoffs. But I wish I could have gone back and changed it up to where they could have gotten into the playoffs, because I would have loved to see that team on the streak that they were. Like Andy said with the Marlins, the Suns were just having fun in the bubble. They were playing basketball. DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, they look so good. And I look for a lot for them in this upcoming NBA season to see how they'll do, especially with Chris Paul on the team now. So maybe they'll surprise me again in 2021 and make another run at the playoffs. So we'll move on to our next award, and this one goes out to the Heartwarming Moment of the Year. And this is pretty much what it says. A moment throughout the sports year where you just sat down and really just said, wow, and it really warmed your heart and it made you, feel all good and everything. So why don't we start with Anthony here? What's your heartwarming moment of the year?
my heartwarming moment, well, was the Florida basketball Keontae Johnson. He's the captain, one of the projected Player of the Year awards winners. Yeah, had like a heart problem and he collapsed on the court. And then today he went to his first practice. He's not playing anything, but he went through a lot of heart surgeries. And it was just something that the team is just going to use to build off of and get better. And he called his coaches and his team and sent something out on like Instagram or Twitter when he woke up in the hospital saying everything's going to be okay. And even players around the league all wished him luck. And it was just a heartwarming moment to see that such a good player who was already having a great start is okay now. And then his future, he still has a future, which is great to see. So that was my heartwarming. Keontae Johnson showing up to practice for the first time today.
My heartwarming moment was when Alex Smith retook the field finally after his gruesome injury that we all know about. It was just I've always liked Alex Smith. He's always just been a really solid NFL quarterback. Doesn't have like a big ego or anything, just played the game. And it was just really heartwarming to me when they panned over to his wife and his kids. You could tell his wife was visibly nervous, but his kids were super happy to see their dad back in. So it was very heartwarming. Even though I'm an Eagles fan and Washington's our rival, it was just great to see him back.
My heartwarming moment of the year, it goes to Habib Nurmagomedov and his moments after his victory against Justin Gaethje at UFC 254. I'm pretty sure everyone's seen it. He collapses onto the ground and just breaks into tears right after the passing of his father, who had passed away in the summer. His first fight without his father, being there really for him, without training with him, not only his father, but his head coach as well. So it takes a lot out of a guy, and for him to win that fight in the way he did with the submission victory against Justin Gaethje, very impressive. And the scenes after it, where he was all emotional, just incredible. Enough to earn my heartwarming moment of the year. So let's move on. We've got a few spots left. We're up to number 4 in our top moments of the year. Dan, why don't we start with you at number 4?
My number 4 kind of coincides with my game in the year. It was when Lamar Jackson, he went to the locker room. We all kind of know why he went to the locker room. And Trace McSorley came in, didn't do too bad, but then when they needed him most, he came back out of the locker room and led the Ravens to a game-winning, I think it was a game-tying touchdown, and then he put them in range for a field goal again, which Justin Tucker took. So it was just, it's high up because I love that game so much, and it was just a really interesting win for Lamar Jackson, the Ravens.
My number 4 moment was when Klay Thompson was hurt again, the day of the draft, and an open court run. It sucked. I love Klay. The Warriors, had the number 2 pick, which is paying off right now, and they're going to be back at the possible top of the league or a contender at least, which they still are. But him getting hurt for another year just sucks. His legs are like noodles right now, which is terrible. But just I hope he gets better because he is a great player.
So, boys, my number 4 on the list. It's Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, number 2. Personally, for me, it's just because I'm a big Tyson Fury guy. And I know I've told everyone a lot. He was robbed in the first fight, and it was great to finally see him get his revenge in the second fight. An absolute masterclass of a performance by the Gypsy King against, a guy who everyone saw as the favorite, really, especially going into the first fight, which took place in 2018. No one expected Fury to do what he did. No one expected to do what he did in the second fight, which made it all that more better. So it comes in at number 4 on my list. We'll move on to number 3. We'll head right back to Dan.
My number 3, you kind of went over it in your heartwarming moment, but it was when Habib defeated Gaethje. It was just a great sports moment, one of the best of 2020. Two fantastic fighters. Even though Gaethje lost, he's still a top fighter in the UFC, no doubt, and could be 29-0. We don't know if he'll come back for 30, probably not, but we'll have to wait and see. I did want Gaethje to win, but I'm not like mad or anything that Habib won it, so that one was number 3 for me.
Number 3, couldn't decide. But I'd have Baker loses to the Jets. Just happened. He failed the team. And the Browns are doing very good. He faced the reality that Sam Darnold has to face every day for the past 3 years. He has no good receivers. His O-line is terrible, and their back 7 and the defense aren't doing good. So, and if they won that game, they would have solidified a spot in the playoffs. But then it's tied with Devontae Smith, Alabama wide receiver. His career just at Alabama. He already has 17 touchdowns this season, and he's the favorite to win the Heisman. And I truly think he deserves to. I know not a lot of wide receivers get it, but if he doesn't, I think we'll get robbed. But he's just a special player. He picked up the slack, or the workload, not slack, of his co-partner in crime, Jalen Waddle, who got hurt in the beginning of the season. He's just a special player. He's so fast. He's so good. He's making one-handed catches like nothing. But his career breaking records at Bama for most touchdown catches is just incredible, and he's going to be special in the NFL.
Well said, Anthony, but I'm not sure if you're aware, but award shows, you're meant to uplift people. So maybe you could have said the Jets and their impressive win against the Cleveland Browns
How is that your
instead of
number
sending
3
down
moment
Baker
of the
Mayfield
year?
and the Browns.
Number 3.
But you know what? We'll move on. My number 3, I got to give it to the NHL bubble. What an experience that was. I would do anything to go back in time and rewatch the NHL bubble in its entirety. Just so much fun. From the round robin games to the play-in series, the best of 5, and then you had the normal playoffs. All incredible. I think I watched over maybe 1,000 hockey games. I don't know. However many were played, I watched them all. I didn't miss a single second of the action, and I don't regret any of it. Just so much fun as a hockey fan to watch all that stuff, especially with my Flyers, who ended up being the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference and the round robin play they had. Incredible. And just the rest of the playoffs in general. So many fun series, so many fun moments, so many fun goals. Just great. I cannot wait for hockey to come back. I'm going to go bananas when it does, because I'm jonesing for some hockey, boys. I'm not going to lie to you. So we'll move on. I'll stop talking about hockey. Let's move on to the comeback of the year. Everyone knows what the comeback is. Comeback for something bad, an injury, a bad year, something like that. So let's start with Anthony. Who's your comeback of the year going to?
My comeback of the year was the Nuggets against the Clippers. They were down 3-1, and they came back, won the series, and all thrilling games. Jamal Murray and Jokic just were unbelievable, especially Murray. It was just something that no one expected. The Clippers were supposed to be against the Lakers to decide who would win the Western Conference finals, but just that was a great comeback by a great young team that's just going to keep surprising people.
For me, I'm going to go with the Chiefs during the playoffs last year. During the NFL playoffs. I don't know if you guys remember, but they were down 24-0 to the Texans, and they came back, won that game. And then they were also down, I think, 10 in the fourth quarter to the Titans, and they're also down 10 in the fourth quarter to the Niners in the Super Bowl. So it was just great by the Chiefs. I mean, they came back in every single one of their games and they won, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So
My comeback of the year, I give it to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think Dan knows more than anyone how much I rained on their parade after getting swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets. After being historically one of the best teams in NHL history last season, and then getting swept by a team who barely made the playoffs. Just for them to come back this year and make me eat all of my words. They absolutely dominated throughout the entirety of the playoffs. There was never a doubt. They looked a little sloppy in the round robin, but they didn't really try in that because I think everyone knows by now that the positioning really never mattered. The seating, it was never really home ice. It was just kind of what color jerseys you were wearing for that game. So for them to come back, win the cup in the dominant fashion that they did against the Dallas Stars, I gave them my comeback of the year after coming back from, I would say it was a bad season, but they were one of the best teams in NHL who got swept out of the playoffs in the first round, and they come back to win the Stanley Cup this year. So that's my comeback of the year. We'll move on to our next award. This one is the team of the year. So like all these awards are open to every single sport, whatever team it is throughout the calendar year. Team of the year. We'll start with Dan for this one.
my team of the year was Bayern Munich. To me, they were just the most dominant team in the world during 2020. They got the treble, they won the Bundesliga, the DFB Pokal, and then the Champions League. And then coming into this new season, they're still extremely dominant. They won every game in the Champions League. And going back to the Champions League title, they won every single one of their games. Every single one of their games. No draws, no losses. And they, to me, more so than the Lakers, the Dodgers, any of the champions, they were so dominant. They smoked teams left and right. So they were my team of the year.
The team I chose was Joe Burrow and his LSU Tigers. That team that won the national championship, and even Joe Burrow's season. That team is probably one of the best college football teams ever. They're so dominant, and they beat everyone. Even they beat Trevor Lawrence, like not embarrassingly, but bad in the final, in the championship. They were just. I don't think any team could stop that offense, and that offense is better than any other offense that has ever been in college football with Jamar Chase, um, Clyde Hilaire. That was just such a good team, and you won't see another team like that for a little bit in college football.
Well, so boys, my team of the year, I gave it to the LA Dodgers. What a great year they put on the 60-game season. Just incredible seasons by, Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Justin Turner. I could go on and on about how great of a season they had. And they finally get their World Series title after so long and after so many failed seasons. They finally get it done against the Tampa Bay Rays. As I mentioned earlier in the playoffs, that really wowed me. So I got to give it to them for an impressive season. Dan, I liked your pick with Bayern, and Anthony, I liked your pick with LSU, but I had to go to the Dodgers here just because of how impressive they were. Best team in the NL this season. Obviously, they won the West, and they made teams in the playoffs look like absolute fools, besides the Braves, who gave them a good run for their money. But I got to give it to the Dodgers, finally winning the World Series. So we'll move on, and we're going to move into our last two picks for the top moments of the year. So we're down to 2 and 1. Anthony, we're going to start with you. Give us your number 2.
This one's tied, both Philadelphia related. First one, real quick, was Hurts going in for Wentz. I like the Eagles, but I never liked the Wentz. I
Don't
like
bring down Wentz. Uplift Hurts, okay?
Yeah,
It's
I
an
know.
award show.
I know. So I was happy about it. Nothing against Carson Wentz, just a little against him, but I think it's a good start for the Eagles. And then my other moment was Oscar. Help me with his last name, Dom Limbaum. Right, I said that
Yeah, you're
right.
saying it right, Limbaum.
All right. He, had cancer at such a young age, and he beat it and was played in the Canadian series, which is just so uplifting to see, or the Islanders series, which is awesome to see that he beat it. And I remember when he returned, all the Flyers were just like inspired, and even though they didn't make it to the Stanley Cup, I think that just a great moment, heartwarming moment, and inspiring story that you should learn about. And it's just awesome to see that he was able to come back from cancer.
My number 2 moment, and he kind of talked about it earlier, but it was that DeAndre Hopkins catch against the Bills. I don't know. I mean, I did watch the Odell Beckham catch and the San Antonio Holmes catch as well, but I don't know if I've seen a better catch. There were 3 defenders in the area, and he just went up and got it. He lost them, and you know, obviously it was a big win for them because they're still fighting to get in the playoffs. But I feel like that play just may be more indicative of the fantastic trade that the Cardinals made for him. That is going to pay off for years to come. It has propelled Kyler Murray into a new stratosphere that I didn't think he would reach in his second year, and it was just such a great moment, such a classic NFL game, and it means so much for the Cardinals and for the Texans too. Like, it's crazy. They don't have their first round pick. If you remember, they traded to Miami, so Miami could make the playoffs and have the number 4 pick, which is insane. It's just, yeah, it was a crazy catch, and then more of a crazy, like, indicative moment of the Cardinals as an organization.
Well said, boys. My number 2, it's the shutdown of sports. COVID-19 shutting down all the sports. We all remember it. You know, they canceled March Madness. They paused spring training. They put the NBA season, NHL season on hold. Soccer stopped entirely. Um, you know, just a really weird time. I didn't know what to do with my life at that point. There was never any sports on. You know, I couldn't watch the Sixers. I couldn't watch the Flyers on like Tuesdays and Thursday nights and stuff like that. So, you know, we all had to learn how to watch reruns of old games and, you know, watch random specials and just a weird point. And eventually, you know, as we all got it back, as I said, the NHL bubble, MLB came back for the 60-game season. The NBA bubble came back. Soccer eventually came back. So I guess I'll combine it into one, the shutdown of sports and the return of sports all in one. It comes in at my number 2. Just a moment I'll definitely remember for the rest of my life. I imagine you guys probably will too. Weird moment, but it's definitely got to be on the list, so I put it at number 2. So let's move right on into number 1, and we'll go right back to Anthony. Anthony, give us your top moment of 2020.
My top moment was what Dan said for number 2, the Hopkins catch against the Bills. That was just insane, insane, insane. I seen a lot of great catches before live, and I remember we were watching dinner, and I told our dad that didn't want to watch any sports for the entire year, especially football, and I said, let's just put this on, and then that happened, and he's watching football now, so that's how much it changed his mind. But he was 3 players. He jumped up and just took that ball down. He made the Cardinals a good team. They're not great yet, but it's just crazy. Like, one-handed catches might be cooler, but 3 guys, in front of him, in between him, he was sandwiched. He was Oreoed, whatever you want to call it. It was just a great catch, and I'll never forget that.
For my number 1 moment, Andy kind of talked about it a little bit with his team of the year, but it was Joe Burrow completing the perfect season, and more so after seeing him smoke that cigar. I mean, that was cold, man. But I love Joe Burrow. He had, to me, I know Tim Tebow had great seasons, but to me, that was the greatest college football quarterback season I think ever. He had, I think, 60 total touchdowns, which was insane. There was a little part of me that thought maybe Trevor Lawrence could, stop the run because he's a great quarterback as well. We all know that. But just seeing Burrow and all those guys that Anthony mentioned, Chase, Jefferson, everyone, just complete that perfect season. And like I said, especially after that, Joe Burrow with the cigar, it was just cool seeing Coach O, go Tigers. It was a fantastic way, and just my best sports moment of 2020.
Anthony with the spot on impression of Joe Burrow and the cigar. Thank you for that, Anthony. My number 1 moment, I would declare the return of sports, UFC 249 on May 9th. And an absolutely loaded UFC card highlighted by Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson. And what a great fight that was, too. Justin Gaethje wins the interim lightweight title. We also saw the return of Dominic Cruz against Henry Cejudo, and which is now known as Henry Cejudo's last fight. We also saw Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Another incredible knockout by Francis Ngannou. You saw the guys like Anthony Pettis versus Cowboy Cerrone in that card. One of my favorite fighters personally was on that card too, Bryce Mitchell. Another amazing performance by him on that card. And this was just a really big moment, I would say. Like I mentioned at my number 2 when the sport shut down, I didn't know what to do with my life. Dana White had this ongoing battle where he wanted Habib versus Tony Ferguson to still happen in April. And eventually Disney came up to him and was like, no way, buddy, you are not doing that. So Dana White fought as hard as he could, and he finally got what he wanted. They held the pay-per-view down. I believe it was in Jacksonville. So shout out to Jacksonville for letting sports come back. And just shout out to Dana White. He's been doing it ever since May. I believe there was a streak of maybe, I want to say 30 plus Saturdays where there was a card. So that's just amazing in its own. But UFC 249, I would say, was the official return of sports, and just a good comeback in general for the sport and UFC and sports in general. I mean, all the other sports followed in return. Eventually we saw MLB come back and NBA and NHL. So UFC 249 has to be my top moment of the year. And we're going to move into our final award of the show. And we're going to give it away to the athlete of the year. So similar to, your NFL, MLB MVP awards, your Ballon d'Or in soccer, just the athlete of the year, you give it to whoever you want. Dan, let's start with you, your athlete of the year.
Yeah, my athlete of the year, sorry, kind of goes along with my team of the year, and it was Robert Lewandowski. He did win the FIFA Men's Player of the Year. He would have a Ballon d'Or if they did not cancel the award. I don't know why they did. He definitely would have won it, as much as it pains me because Messi. I'm a big Messi fan, but to me, he was just insane. He led that Bayern team that I mentioned was so dominant, scoring goals, holding up play, getting assists too, and even going into this, into the new season, he's still scoring goals. He's still the focal point. I think he's 32 or 33 now. He's never relied on pace throughout his career, and it was just great to see just such a dominant striker just at the top of his game. And like that word dominant, he was just more dominant to me than any athlete in 2020.
My athlete of the year was Patrick Mahomes. I couldn't think when I was thinking of this. Like I couldn't think of anyone's special. He was just the first person that came to my head and just wouldn't leave it. So that's why I put him down. He just won with his first Super Bowl. Super Bowl MVP, coming back in that Super Bowl, and he started a great career last year. He kind of made his name, and then signs that big 10-year, $503 million contract that I wish I had. It just, how they say generational talent. I think he made himself in contention for that this past year, and it's still going on. They first seed this year in the AFC and still can win a Super Bowl. So I just think he deserves like all the praise. He's the future of the NFL.
Good picks, guys. I had a rough time choosing one. You look at your soccer guys. You got your Messi's, your Ronaldo's, your Neymar's. You got, the MVPs of the other leagues. I looked at Draisaitl from Edmonton. I looked at Mahomes, from the Chiefs. I looked at Giannis from the Bucks. I looked at a lot of different guys for should give this award to, but I knew deep down there was really only one true guy I could give this award to, and that's UFC flyweight champion Davison Figueiredo. What a year he had! 4-0, 2 impressive wins against Joseph Benavidez. A very impressive win against Alex Perez, and then another win against Brandon Moreno on 21 days' notice. What a year he had. Just incredible. The God of War himself. Left me speechless most of the time, especially that last fight he had against Brandon Moreno. Another contender for fight of the year. Obviously, as I said earlier, though, it's got to go to Joanna versus Wei Lee. But what an incredible fight he put on. And then, of course, 3 dominant performances, 2 against Benavidez, who I've mentioned this before. He's one of the top guys in the UFC flyweight division. So to see him do that to Benavidez is just insane. And then everyone looked at Alex Perez and was like, oh, this is the guy who could genuinely beat him. And then he made a mockery of him too. So my athlete of the year's got to go to the UFC flyweight champion, Davison Figueiredo. So guys, that's going to do it. That's all of our awards. That's our top 10 moments of the year. We've given away Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, Comeback of the Year, Team of the Year, Heartwarming Moment of the Year, our Sports King.Dom Man of the Year, and of course our Athlete of the Year, which we just did. Listen, I'll tell you here first, we're going to be back very soon. We're going to make predictions for 2021. So make sure you join us for that. And you can be damn sure we'll be right back here next year for the second annual Sports King.Awards, I should say. So I've been your host, Dom, joined up top by the Price brothers, Daniel and Anthony. I'd like to thank you for joining us. I hope you had a very good Christmas and a very happy New Year. And I hope you stick with us. My final message to you will be, as always, to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you're watching this on right now. Follow us on Instagram at sportsking.dom and on Twitter at sports__kingdom. And guys, any last messages before we sign off?
Stay safe. Happy New Year.
Ditto.
Well said, gentlemen. And for the last time in 2020, I've been Dominic, of course, joined up top by the Price brothers, Daniel and Anthony, and we thank you for joining us for the first ever Sports King Awards, and we will see you in 2021, everyone. Adios.
Peace.